Hey everyone, it's Matt from GuitarWorld.com here. We are at NAMM 2025 at the Martin preview event with Peter Frampton. Peter, thank you so much for giving us your time.
My pleasure. Nice to see you.
Lovely to meet you. Yeah, we just heard you chat to the Martin people at the booth, and they gave you a lovely Martin SC offset acoustic as a gift. Not a bad takeaway. I know you haven't played it yet, but how did it feel when you got your hands on it?
It feels very nice, and it's got a almost an electric neck, so which is fabulous, for me with my hands and everything. So no, I'm really looking forward to playing that one.
Nice. And you mentioned your hands, and you've spoken before about how you've had to adapt your technique to kind of accommodate. But how are you specifically adapting your technique? What do you find you're doing more of now?
It's hard to say, really. My style is always going to be the same, maybe a few less notes and more soul. I think about what I'm playing a little bit more before I do it. I try not to think at all when I'm actually soloing or playing things I'm making up on the spur of the moment. Yeah, it's getting a little bit more difficult. I just don't have the pressure that I had. Bends are getting a little bit more difficult and stuff like that. But you know what? I just work around it, and if I can't use my first finger, I use my second finger and third and whatever. My little fingers are probably the weakest, because it starts there apparently. So, but no, I'm still enjoying playing. I'm still doing sessions. I just did a track with Buddy Guy. Yeah, so I mean...
What was that like, with working with Buddy Guy?
Well, his part was already recorded and they sent it to me, and I just did it at home, and I have a great setup there, and it was phenomenal. But it had to be really good, because I'm playing with, guess who? Buddy Guy. I sang a little bit on it too, so we shared the vocals, so it's a duet. So it'll be on his next record. So
is that coming out this year? Do you know? Coming out soon?
I'm not privy to that, but I would think so. Yes, because they wanted to start mixing it straight away. And I also did a version of "Baby I Love Your Way" with the Deborah Silva, who it's the Basie Orchestra, and so they did like a 1945 version of "Baby I Love Your Way." And and it's phenomenal, and I did a solo on it. So.
And you said earlier that you're working on a new record as well.
Yes.
How's that going? Is there like a time frame on it, or is it just kind of as and when you can kind of work on it?
It's coming to a head, the new album. Yes, I've been working on it for the music, not recording it necessarily, but the music probably for the last 6 years. Wow. Because I haven't had a new music CD out, I believe, in 14 years. So it better be good.
I'm sure it will be. We're all looking forward to hearing it. Are you working with anyone? Do you have any collaborators, guest guitarists on there you can reveal? Or?
I've done one track with Vince Gill, which is wonderful. I'm writing with my son Julian, and he and I finish each other's sentences when it comes to lyrics, So, and he is so helpful. And he's actually going to be part of the production as well. So he's just
be very proud.
I'm so proud of him, and he knows his stuff.
And just kind of bringing it back to the Martin chat as well, I really want to hear more about this stolen D28, was it that you had?
No, it was a D45.
D45. I'd love to kind of hear a bit more about that.
Yeah. We'd recorded Frampton's Camel. We were on the road promoting it, which is how it used to work in the old days. So we were doing all the Agora clubs, which are in Ohio and wherever the other ones are, I can't remember. But and between the first one and the second one, someone stole the D45, which I was playing on stage, at that point. So it left a really bad taste in my mouth, because it was such a phenomenal instrument. It's like when I lost my Les Paul for so many years. I couldn't play another Les Paul for a while, because none of them sounded. It's like might as well been a Hofner. It doesn't matter what, even though I love Hofners. And then when I came to the NAMM show in either the very late 80s or the early 90s, and Dick Boak was then running the company, and wonderful man. We hit it off immediately, and I told him the story of how, you know, I'd used it for the entire Frampton's Camel record on every track. If you hear acoustic, it's the D45, you know. So I said, but it got stolen and I've never really had a Martin since, you know. And he said, well, we've got to change that. So I said, well, how are we going to do that? He said, how about we make a Peter Frampton model and call it the Frampton's Camel version? I said, in. So I spoke to Dick the other day, actually, and he's doing really well. He's retired now, but he's always in the minds of everybody because he introduced so many artists to Martin, and everybody talks about Dick, you know.
So when you got that Frampton's Camel acoustic, how was it when you kind of got it? Did it kind of compare to the original one, or was it? How was it?
Hard to say, but if it compared, but it just sounded like I could play the intro to Sweet Judy Blue Eyes on it, and it sounded pretty close. Yeah, I didn't have the fingers of Stephen Stills, but but it sounded pretty close. It's got that really beautiful highs and the very deep lows, you know, and the combination is phenomenal.
Would you reckon you'll be using the new Martin on the album, or are you?
Oh, I'm absolutely, yeah. If, they're going to ship that to me, and I'll be using that on the record, definitely.
A question we do like to ask people is if there are any younger players that you're keeping an eye on who you...
Grace Bowers. She's a wonderful, wonderful talent. Billy Strings, met him for the first time the other night. But there's so many up and coming. I mean, I can't look at YouTube too much because I'll be shredded to death, you know.
I mean, everyone on Instagram as well, it's like million miles an hour shredding now, isn't it?
I know. Then there's a couple of players that are just unbelievable, you know. It's very humbling. But I do wonder if they could sit down and play with a band.
Well, that's the thing they say, isn't it? It's like it's one thing playing in a room and then getting in front of, like, you know, a band and playing with them.
Yeah, well, some of them can, and some of them are just fantastic.
It'd be cool to see you and Grace jamming in the future. That would be a cool one.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.